Well, the installations are installing, the drills are drilling, the paint is dripping, and everything is getting ready for the open studio at the Summer Institute here at the Plug-in Institute of Contemporary Art at the University of Winnipeg. Over the last couple of weeks, artists of a variety of mediums have been working to share their materials and what they have to say about the world around them. And they're doing so with the mentorship of the two people you see sitting right beside me, Louise Witthöft and Rodney LaTourelle. Thank you so much for joining us, you two. Maybe I'll start with you, Louise. What is it like to encounter these types of artists as an instructor?
Well, it's been really wonderful because it's a really diverse group of people, and we were really happy with all the applicants. There were so many great applicants, and I think we got a really good group together. And for us, it was really about creating this diverse in terms of backgrounds, ages, and what kind of subject they deal with, but also like different sensibilities. Yeah. So it's been really wonderful learning from all the participants.
Amazing. I understand that this is actually one of the largest groups like this that this Summer Institute has had ever. And so maybe as you were talking about the group that you've selected and picked to be here, Rodney, maybe you can speak a bit to that process about how you chose the artists that you chose and who will all be exhibiting their works here for the open studio.
Yeah. Well, maybe a bit of background about what we wanted to focus on, the program. We wanted to focus just on local conditions. And there used to be a creek that ran in this area, basically underground from this building, like on this ground and under the Hudson Bay. So we wanted to think about the local conditions and how that connects to bigger systems. And this is kind of like a perennial question of art. But we thought we could bring it really to the local site, the local conditions, and so everyone's focused on their local surroundings and the details, but bringing that to a bigger picture in various ways, like ethically, ecologically, in terms of social justice. So we called the program Magic Creek as a way to think about the Lost Creek. It was called Colony Creek even, and so to just a bit, and talking about magic, thinking, this is gone. We have to use our imagination to think how it was. It's kind of representative of an older way that people dealt, that humans and non-humans, this human non-human relationship was more antagonistic in the developing years of Winnipeg, and they buried this creek. So how can we think of other ways of relating to natural forces? So with that in mind, we had a number of applicants, and their work specifically related. So they gave a statement about how they would want to work and how they thought of our statement, our program. So we based it on that, as Louise says, we really wanted to have a range of people. There's people that are still at school, but there's people that are over 60. So that's exciting. Yeah, also from different backgrounds. We have people
and from different places. Like most people are from here, from Winnipeg, but there's also people from other places, like coming from Montreal, and Vancouver, and
Wow.
In Europe.
Yeah, wide range of mediums, as I say, but also geographies. Yeah. The words Magic Creek are so evocative. Like there's right away, the imagination just sparks with all these ideas. When you all first met a couple of weeks ago, Louise, what were some of the ideas that were floating in the room as people started to respond to the image of the Magic Creek?
Well, I think the first day we met, we of course all introduced ourselves, and then we went on a quest for this creek, this colonial creek that was running here. So we were trying to trace it through the city, which was really a wonderful way to get to know each other, but also really an interesting way of trying to examine this site and like what it has left over, or is there any leftovers of this creek? So I think that's how a lot of conversation started, and a lot of artists who are participating are dealing with these issues, and also a lot of issues of lost waterways and
so it was just sort of time-based. We were out looking at the dirty conditions of the city, and so.
And it was raining.
A lot of yeah, it was raining.
It was
A lot
really
of conversations
raining.
started like that.
All right.
And and we knew this one area on Broadway. There's a big dip, and that is the banks of this creek. So we wanted to see that and see is it really the banks, or could it be? Some people are more skeptical. And,
Because we're talking about this ghost creek that's not here anymore, right? So
Yeah.
it's this like presence of this ghost, and we were trying to find it. So I think that started a lot of conversations already amongst all of us, which was really quite a wonderful trip, actually, even though it was raining. And, and everyone kind of connected very.
Totally.
These harsh conditions.
Yeah, exactly. Harsh environs.
Yeah.
As you were going through the last couple of weeks, how did the image of the Ghost Creek change for you all as you started actually putting projects together that will be showcased in the open studio?
I think, well, everyone had their different approach. You know, it's a metaphor, and I think a lot of people are talking about memories and imagination and about that difference. Today we had conversations about how it's important. Memory is important, but also if you have too much memory, you have less imagination and maybe less thought. So it's that balance between thinking what's there and realizing that that's something that's really lost and terrible, unfortunate. But also what are the new relationships that we can imagine from that? So.
We also had some very amazing guests here from the community that Rodney can maybe speak more to, that also were dealing with all these issues of water and land.
Wow.
And,
there was Jamie Isaac, who's a local artist and curator, and she's working with notions of water as a person, as a relation, and having agency, so specifically Lake Winnipeg having agency.
Yes.
And maybe being able to sue all the polluters that are polluting Winnipeg. But so there was that conversation, and then there was the Lake Winnipeg Indigenous Collective, who brought in a large map of the watershed
that took
of
up
this
this
area.
whole space.
It took up this whole studio over here.
So we walked around that, and we were telling stories about relationships to water.
Wow.
And Jamie's grandmother was also telling stories about her relationship to water over the last basically 100 years of the here.
Obviously something that has...
Dr. Corshane is her name.
I see. Obviously these are conversations that have a lot of significance here on Treaty 1 territory because of the additional relationships that people have had with water. I think about the Forks and that relationship having existed for time immemorial. For the folks that have come from outside of Winnipeg, what do you think that their interaction with this dialogue about water and the Magic Creek, the Ghost Creek, has been over the last couple of weeks? Was it different perhaps than the artists who are engaging with this as local residents?
Well, there is an artist with a Nigerian background, and he's specifically dealing with the interpretation of artifacts from Benin culture, actually. But he's going to school here, so he's thinking about the interpretation of objects from a post-colonial context, specifically. So that's his work. I also think it's on universal issues, because we're also talking about ecology and the ecological crisis catastrophe that we're living in at the moment. So this is a zoom in, but we're also zooming out. So we've been zooming in and zooming out on these issues. So I think, as for myself, who are not from here and never lived here or anything, but visited quite a few times, I've been learning tons from the participants who are from here. But I also think a lot of the questions and a lot of the things we're dealing with are universal, and if we want to save this earth, we all have to work together. But we can learn from these different ideas of relationships to nature.
Exactly.
So the other thing that we're dealing with on the site is the Hudson Bay Company, and they basically buried the creek. It used to go right underneath the building, and of course they have a huge colonial history, and so we've actually had donations of pieces of material from that building that we're working with and transforming. So there's that direct relationship to the Hudson Bay critically, but also, a lot of people from Winnipeg think of it nostalgically and think of the paddle wheel. So there's going to be there's Helga Jakobsen. She's had an idea to
And Cam,
remake
Tricia,
and Cameron Forbes
Wow.
they have an idea to remake the kind of paddle wheel as a kind of dysfunctional machine in
Wow.
the space.
So
Well,
that's also going
That's
to be
happening. They're working on that now. And we'll
Sure.
see. Yeah.
Winnipeggers of a certain age will certainly have an
Yeah.
association with
Right.
that,
Yeah.
remembering
Yeah.
those paddle wheel
Yeah.
cruises that used to go
Yeah.
up and down the rivers.
Yeah.
What, as instructors, what do you take away from an experience like this, mentoring over the last couple of weeks into your own artistic practices?
Yeah, I think this has not really been us so much as instructors, as more as like trying to create a temporary community. So I think it's more been like a situation where we all been learning from each other. I mean, Rodney, with all his knowledge of Winnipeg that I personally don't have, has been inviting all these amazing people that has been telling us and teaching us about all these things. So I haven't seen ourselves as much as instructors, as more as facilitators and like being part of this like temporary community.
Sure. What do you hope, now audiences are going to come and check out the open studio, of course. What do you hope that they take away from
But
Magic
what I would
Creek?
add to what Louise said is that it's there's fewer and fewer opportunities to really come together to talk as a group outside of different settings, say like in the university or so this is an extra university setting to be able to be free to explore people's work themselves and to talk about these issues that are relevant. So
Wow.
that's
It's a great add-on.
Yeah.
And obviously other people are going to come in and interact and have these sort of same interactions that you're saying, fewer and further between. What do you think that, or what do you hope even, that people will take away from interacting with Magic Creek and all these different iterations that we're going to be seeing all around us here at the Plug-in ICA?
Well, one is, that there's different versions of history, right? And it's usually written by the victors, and that's not the only one. So, to think that there was a creek here, to think about the relationships to the non-human world, to nature, to think about the Hudson Bay in different lights, and of course now it's being renovated by the Southern Chiefs organization, and that's a whole new chapter. I mean, there was 355 years of the Hudson Bay that ended basically in June of this year. So it turned out to be this really momentous time for this location specifically in Winnipeg and representative of different forces in Canada and in general, right?
I hope they also can see that this community that we created and all these exchanges that's been, because I think we had a lot of interesting conversations, and I think people have been really it's really been a community where people are helping each other out and inspiring each other and questioning each other, and it's been really wonderful. I hope that you see that, and I think you really will, because I think we've become a really nice little community here.
Yeah, that's right.
Over the last 2 weeks,
the conversations are somehow visible, then
So
people
that's
can
what
join
I
in,
hope.
and we can share that.
The conversations will be ongoing, starting
and
with
they're not
the
ending.
community. And they're not ending, but they continue here at the Plug-in Institute of Contemporary Art for the Magic Creek Open Studio taking place here at the Plug-in Institute of Contemporary Art. Thank you so much to you, Louise, and to you, Rodney, for taking the time to tell us more about it.
Thank you very
So nice.
much.
Yeah, you came. Very nice.
Thank you for coming.
Well, I'm sitting here now with one of the participants in the Open Studio with the Plug-in Institute of Contemporary Arts Summer Institute. Why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your artistic practice to start off with.
Hi, I'm Betty Carpick. I grew up in northern Manitoba, but I live in Thunder Bay, Ontario now. I'm Cree and Eastern European, and my culture and heritage really influenced my land-based community practice.
Okay, so we're sitting in amongst some of the very literal ways in which this land-based practice is taking shape here. Even before we get to that, because the words Magic Creek were such a powerful prompt that we were hearing a bit about from Rodney and Louise before, I'm wondering if you can tell us about what first went through your mind when you heard that sort of overarching theme for this Summer Institute.
So not so much about the magical part of the creek, but what really influenced me to apply was that the idea of the lost waterway of Colony Creek. So I do a lot of work and advocacy and as a steward and a future good ancestor around water. and many of my northern communities have been affected and impacted by the Manitoba hydro flooding to this very day.
Yeah.
So I use my art practice as a way to expand on that advocacy. So when I heard about this project, I thought it was a great opportunity to meet with other artists, to have deeper conversations, to make great connections, and to be in my home province. So that feels really exciting.
So there's so many literal iterations of your home province in around you here. We've got, for instance, over there, some water from Omens Creek, the Assiniboine River, everything down to just rainwater gathered here in Winnipeg in the last couple of weeks, and then they interact with all the different colors that we see here in front of us. Maybe you can tell us about how you have created these different colors and what you are hoping to do with them.
So I make inks, which are small batch artisanal concoctions, and I just feel like there's a lot of story within each tiny bottle. So I'm always think about the water that I put in with a particular ink. I'm very mindful of when I gather, where I gather, how much I gather. So I have some marigolds, goldenrod, and raspberries and tobacco leaf are what I've gathered here. We're kind of at the waning end of when the flowers are really producing a lot of color.
Sure.
But I use some of my sister's wild blueberries from northern Manitoba, and chaga I brought from Thunder Bay, and I have a copper carbonate ink as well.
So that's all these different materials that have now come into contact with the various types of water. And then there's different sort of applications for the colors that are generated from that sort of, I almost want to call it like alchemy. That
it is a kind of alchemy, and you know, I'm basically doing Breaking Bad with inks. So yeah, by using a modifier, it's just a nice little bit of science that alters the color.
Okay, so you are creating these different colors and seeing how they interact with a wide variety of materials here over the last couple of weeks, in amongst a wide range of other artists who we can hear drilling away and doing whatever in behind you. How has being a part of the Summer Institute influenced your artistic practice? And even here in the last couple of weeks, how have you noticed your process maybe shift as a result of the artists that you've been in collaboration with and that you've been working alongside?
I think anytime we're around other artists and we're talking and we're having kind of conversations that are sparked by what we're learning, by our experiences, by our knowledge, it just deepens your own sense of what you're doing. Sometimes it can be somebody suggests making something a certain way, or an approach with working with different types of people, be it the community or teaching or the general public. It's really been fantastic. I'm so happy to be a part of this.
Yeah.
I feel like I came in not knowing anyone, and I'm leaving with lots of friends and fellow colleagues.
That's always the best kind of creative environments to be a part of, is one that has that same sort of support. Within that, how have you noticed, or even better than that, what do you think that this practice says about not just the disappeared creek that exists below our feet, the former Colony Creek, but also about our relationship with water as a whole, not just in Manitoba, but indeed around the world?
Well, water is now one of our most precious and as well as sacred resources, and we're so cavalier about the way we treat it. So just through my arts practice, by having people kind of pause and take a minute to think about water, I hope that they will be better stewards.
Okay. When people interact with your works at the Open Studio, what do you hope to hear them saying as they walk away from your station, perhaps to another station, or even leaving the studio altogether?
I hope people see the Summer Institute as holistic, and it's very much not about one person or one person's practice. It's about all of us coming together with Rodney and Louise, and just having a lot of fantastic sharing.
Yeah, this has been wonderful to share in your works and to see your practice in action a little bit here today, Betty. All the best for the show, and all the best. And I can't wait to see how this impacts your work in the future.
Thank you very much.